good, everyone, and thank you for joining me for the very first episode of my new series, Florida Facts from the Past. Each installment will take a look at people who used to dominate the Florida ranks both in cross country and track and field and went on to compete at the collegiate or professional levels. For today's episode, we're taking a look at Furman University sophomore Kristlin Gear. But before we get into the interview, let's look through some stats. High school, she was a 6-time Florida State champion, once in the 800 meters, twice in the 3200, and 3 times in the 1600 meters. In the mile, she ranks number 5 on the Florida girls' all-time list. She was the SoCon indoor mile and 800 meter champion this last indoor season, as well as the SoCon freshman of the year. This past outdoor season, she became an NCAA qualifier in the 3,000 meter steeplechase as a freshman. Also this past track season, she became the U.S. Junior Champion in the 3,000 meter steeplechase. She then later competed at the World Junior Championships in the same event this past summer. Now that we know a bit more on who we're dealing with, let's get into this interview. To start, I want to just thank you for taking the time to sit and talk with me about your running career and just the wonderful sport that has brought us together.
No, of course.
Now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, probably to what seems like yesterday, your senior year of high school. Senioritis is kicking in. It's the final season of cross and track and field coming up, and it seems like everything is happening at once. But then there's also your recruiting process. Tell me a little bit about some of the schools that you were considering.
I was not actually considering changing schools. I wanted to go out of state, but I knew in case anything failed, I should consider one in-state, so that ended up being FSU. And FSU is a perfect school, but it just wasn't my top choice because I didn't want to stay in Florida. I was looking at University of Maryland. I took a visit there. I was actually convinced that's where I was going to go until I took a visit to Furman, which I didn't really want to do in the first place. But my coach convinced me to give him a shot, and I'm really glad I did. There are other schools that I had filled out the potential athlete forms for, but they never got back to me. So those ended up just being 3 schools that I had visited.
And I know that the coach from Furman actually came all the way down from Florida or to Florida to make a personal visit to come see you and try and convince you. So do you think that that definitely played a factor in you eventually choosing Furman?
Oh yeah, that was definitely a big influence. I could see that they want me enough to go out of their way to come down. That was a big them coming out was, and then there was Coach Rita, who came, the women's head coach, who came, and she's very personable, and everything she talked about Furman, the way she described it, it really got me interested. And I don't know if any other coach would have done a better job by explaining how great it is. So the way that she came across, really got me interested, and then taking that visit really solidified my decision that Furman was where I wanted to go.
And you mentioned that Furman wasn't even one of your you looked at it, but you didn't think that was where you wanted to go. When you did go to visit, what stood out to you?
I think what stood out to me actually was more of how she described it. On the visit, and then when I went on the visit, I got to see it all in person for myself. But going to a big school, I always tell people this, that would have been so awesome. But I think I do more, I do better with more individualized or personal relationships, not just on and off the course, but also the classroom. And so Furman kind of like gave me the best of both worlds, having like challenging, but challenging academics, but also had plenty of like support systems and resources for me to be successful, and also like it's like on the track, like we have a relatively small team, so it helps like you get to develop more of a personal relationship with all the coaches and also all the athletes on the team, so that was a bonus.
Let's fast forward a bit to the end of your senior year. You were runner-up in the girls 3200 at Florida Relays. At the state championships, you completed the distance trifecta. You swept the 3A, 800, 16, and 3200 titles. And then you got third in the championship mile at New Balance Nationals. That was your final race as a high school athlete, personal best of 4:49 for the mile. Briefly, just talk a little bit about that race and what are some of your thoughts and emotions that were going through your mind during and after that race?
My goal, like going into the race, was to, break 450. So I was, absolutely thrilled that I got to do that. Especially because it's been like a long season. I've been a little upset to have run so long and so hard for it not to pay off. So I'm sure every runner understands, how great it is, and like you put in all the work and you finally see what you're working towards, like it all pays off and you get to experience that. So then, it was like that for me. Like I got to see all the hard work I was doing really turning into something good.
Now, jumping back a little bit to our current time, let's go back to last fall. You're at a new school, new coach, new season. You finally broke 18. You had a huge personal best, and then by the end of the season, you end up running 17:39. How did that boost your confidence, considering that your high school best was 18:12? You just mentioned that a little bit earlier in the season you ran 18:06. But how was it, considering the fact that you hadn't had a personal best in the 5K since 2015?
It actually, I was a little upset about it at first, just because, I, finished the season comparing myself, to everybody else in the team, and I ended up finishing, 7th in the varsity squad, not running as well as everyone else did. So I was a little defeated about that. And then, after, a couple of months, I'd taken a step back, and that's when I started, really appreciate it. I was thinking, my cross season was so bad. I could have done so much more. And then when I was, decided to compare myself to, myself, instead of comparing myself to my teammates, I'm a little more satisfied with how I did, I might not have run as fast as everyone else did, but I still ran faster than I did in high school, and I was making improvements. So I was pretty happy about that, but I think I'll be a lot happier when I finish this season and do even better.
And you ran your personal best at the SoCon Championships, placing 13th overall, and you were part of that team that eventually went on to win conference, scoring 23 points over Samford, who had 42 points. And then you were also part of the team that eventually went on to compete at nationals and finished 12th. Tell me a bit about how that experience was for you, being able to be part of the team, be able to contribute to it, and also competing at nationals as a freshman.
Well, we placed 7th. I was also disappointed about that, just because, I was there and I was running, but I wasn't in the top scoring 5. But just being able to get that experience, under my belt as a freshman, it really gives me a lot more confidence going into the season, especially knowing that I can be on the top scoring 5. So yeah, while my confidence was down a little bit last year, I think that kind of helped it be a little bit more up this season. So I'm excited to go back in and do better than I did last season, and see when teammates do better, because I know I've heard from their summer training and how it's going. So I'm super stoked to see how they do and how we all come together as a team.
And considering that you did compete at nationals as a freshman, how did your cross experience more or less gear you up to get ready for indoors and outdoors?
I think it helped, training wise, I built a pretty solid base, but I don't have to keep repeating myself. after cross, my confidence was pretty low, so I wasn't feeling great going in. But I kind of used it as like a opportunity to do better. I was like, I want to do better in track than I did in cross, and I like track a lot more than cross, anyways. So I was trying to like focus on little details a lot more in track than I did in cross season, and it ended up paying off for me. So I think that track, like last season, is gonna help gear me up more for cross this season than cross did for track last season. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And speaking of indoors, as you know, in Florida at the high school level, Florida doesn't participate in the indoor track season like the majority of the United States does. It's just cross country and then outdoor track. So whenever Florida athletes do compete indoors, initially at least for the first time, it's a little bit of an adjustment, and some end up adjusting better than others. Now, considering that you have an indoor season under your belt now, do you like indoor better or do you like outdoors better?
Oh, that's kind of hard. I liked indoor better because I got to run, okay, let's have like a both different reasons. Like indoor, I got to run, the 8 and the 8 mostly, but I did run 2 miles. Well, I guess technically it's doing. So I ran like 3 miles and final at conference. And then I ran the one in, I forget what it's called, at the JDL fast track though. So 2 of my meets were miles, and I ran mostly 800s, 5 miles. And outdoor I ran a lot of steeples, which I didn't love, but I think I do like outdoor track more. I don't know if it's just like the atmosphere or if it's what I'm comfortable with, but I feel a lot more comfortable there, probably because it's like what I've always run. I love being outside, and I also absolutely was thrilled with where it took me. I was definitely not expecting on making it to nationals, not just my freshman year, but ever. So to make it to nationals and steep was great, and then to make it on a UF team and travel Finland, like that was just like icing on the cake, like a whole bunch of icing on the cake. That's really like best moment in track for me.
All right, and you kind of jumped ahead of me a little bit. We'll get to outdoor track in a second,
okay.
But let's dial back to indoor season. You mentioned that you ran some 800s. You notched a personal best of 207, which you ran at the Samford Invite, and you actually won that race, and you led Furman to a 1-2-3 sweep. And then you also went on to win the SoCon Conference 800 title, running 210, and again you led Furman to a 1-2-3 sweep with Riley Burr and Emma Kuntz right behind you. 4:44 in the mile, and then you ended up winning the mile at conference as well. What was it like, coming in your freshman year to take one title, then to come back and win another, and then also to end up being named the SoCon Freshman of the Year?
That was a big confidence booster. Like I felt like I was back in like my element and doing a lot better than I did in cross season. I don't know. I love track so much. Like I'm not the biggest cross country fan, and it was one of the conferences for me to have my teammates who I trained with all season right behind me, and at the finish line, it turned around. That was just awesome. I mean, I'm sure anybody on a team understands the bond you have with your team. So it was it was just super great.
Now, this past outdoor season, before we get into talking about the steeple and whatnot, is there a reason why we didn't see any 800s from you? You ran the 800 in high school, obviously. You ran indoors, and I was kind of expecting to see at least one 800 outdoors, and we didn't get a single one. So, do you know the reason behind that?
I don't, and I'm not gonna lie. I was really upset about it, actually. I did not want to win the steeple at all, and my coach just kept throwing me in the steeple, which ended up really aggravating me. But I had to anyways and trust them because they know what they're doing. But it was frustrating because I expected to win the 800.